Everybody keeps saying, eat more protein. It's a secret to fat loss, muscle tone, and just staying full longer. And they're not wrong. That's right. But here's what no one's warning you about. That wonderful high protein diet that you started, it also might be the reason why you haven't, gone in a few days. And ladies, I hate to break it to us, but research shows that we're more likely to have this affect us compared to men. So today we're going to talk about why all that protein might be gumming up the works, making you constipated, and I'm going to give you 2 simple fixes so that you can help keep things moving while you're still crushing those protein goals, because we want to stay on a high protein diet. Let's go into what's happening. See, protein really isn't the villain here. You can eat chicken breasts, protein shakes, and Greek yogurt all day long, and the protein itself isn't really what's clogging things up and causing the constipation. The real problem is what's missing when you are focusing so heavily on protein. And there's 2 things that are missing. The first is fiber. Fiber is basically the digestive system's broom. It gives the stool bulk and helps soften it up so that things just move through the colon like it's supposed to. Without it, everything slows down and your stool gets a lot harder and your gut is left with this dry, dense material that just, doesn't want to leave. And when a lot of people go on a super high protein diet and they're low carb at the same time, a lot of times you kind of cut out all of the veggies and the fruits and a lot of the whole grains too. All these things have fiber in them and they help keep things running smoothly. That's where the trouble starts to set in. And there are 2 main types of fiber that we generally consume. There's soluble fiber, which is like from oats, beans, apples, not really low carb options, but they absorb water and they turn into like a gel-like substance that helps keep our stool soft. And then there's insoluble fiber, which you'll find like in veggies and whole grains, even some nuts. That adds bulk and things speed up transition in the colon so that they don't linger around too long, so they get kind of pulsed out. One way to prevent or even fix constipation on a high protein diet is to bring fiber back into the mix. Most women need around 22 to 28 grams of fiber a day. And if you're eating mostly meat and dairy, you're probably nowhere close. But the trick is to try and weave in some of those high fiber foods without going too high on your carb count. And you can easily do this by tossing a few berries into some Greek yogurt. I like to add chia seeds or flax into my protein smoothies. I always add like around 2 side dishes of vegetables to my dinners. And you could even just have a handful of nuts as a snack. And don't forget the leafy greens, the spinach, kale, arugula. These can help bulk up salads or omelets without adding any additional carbs. The goal isn't to just overhaul your diet overnight. You want to just add gradual, just small changes to it. And that will just help your digestive system run smoothly. If you need help hitting your protein goals without feeling like you're living on plain chicken breast and hard-boiled eggs, the Protein Pack Cookbook has you covered. This is the cookbook that I wrote. It's loaded with delicious high-protein recipes. Many are balanced with fiber-rich vegetables and fruits, so you can fuel your body and support your digestive system while actually enjoying what you're eating. Plus, I break down everything that you need to know about starting a high-protein diet and why it's recommended for the majority of people. Just visit proteinpackedbook.com to order your copy today. The other thing that's missing from your diet when you go high protein is water. When you eat protein, the body breaks that protein down into amino acids, and those extra amino acids that you don't need to repair muscle or just do other functions, they actually get stripped down to the nitrogen level, and that nitrogen turns into urea, and your kidneys are what flush out that urea into your urine. The thing is, studies have shown that it takes around 40 to 60 milliliters of water to get rid of nitrogen from just 1 gram of urea. So the more protein you eat, the more water has to get diverted to your kidneys to help flush out that waste. If you're not drinking enough water, the body starts to steal it from other places, like your stool. Less water in the stool means that things get dry and hard and difficult to pass. And suddenly you're constipated without ever really feeling like you're dehydrated. When you're eating more protein, staying hydrated isn't really just as simple as drink more water. More water doesn't always mean better hydration. In fact, drinking excessive amount of just plain water can actually backfire and diluting your blood sodium levels. Then you start to get symptoms like fatigue, headaches, muscle cramps, and even in extreme cases, it can cause hyponatremia, which is a dangerous condition where you have Too much water, not enough sodium, and it can be life-threatening. That's why optimal hydration isn't just about the fluids that you drink, it's about getting the right electrolyte balance, especially sodium. Sodium is what regulates fluid levels so your body knows where to keep water and where to send it. Lose too much sodium through sweat, exercise, or even just eating low carb, and you can feel that effect pretty fast of sluggishness, low energy, poor recovery, dizziness, and yes, digestive issues. And research shows that most people actually perform better when their sodium levels are 2 to 3 times higher than the standard amount that the guidelines say to have. The science points to a sweet spot of around 4 to 6 grams of sodium a day for optimal hydration. That is where Element, my sponsor for today's video, comes in. Element is an electrolyte drink mix that has a science-backed formula of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. So you can replace what you lose through exercise or a low carb diet or just everyday living. I love it because it just takes the guesswork out of hydration. There's no chugging water and just hoping for the best. I know I'm going to feel great when I drink this stuff. And as somebody who has followed a low carb diet for years, I can tell you firsthand that I can tell a difference when I have my electrolytes and when I don't. So if you want to stay hydrated, keep your digestive system moving, and avoid those pesky afternoon crashes, you should give Element a try. And right now you can get an 8-count sample pack of some of Element's most popular flavors with any purchase. Just go to drinkelement.com/KetoFocus to get yours. It's a great way to sample some of their flavors or just share them with some friends. Another thing to consider when it comes to constipation with a high protein diet or any diet change in general is the gut microbiome. Every time you drastically change your diet, jumping into a high protein one, dropping carbs, switching any of the foods that you eat, you're gonna affect your microbiome. The gut bacteria needs to have time to adapt. Fiber feeds some of our good bacteria. It makes short chain fatty acids that help to keep our colon nice and healthy. Cutting the fiber, those bacteria starve, and the new bacteria that might be more prevalent when you eat more meat or a higher fat diet, they need time to repopulate. And when you add in more protein, you get different bacterial byproducts like ammonia and branched chain fatty acids, and those can cause changes in stool pH and consistency as well. Hormones also come into play here because they influence the gut bacteria populations and also how quickly our intestines move along the food. That brings us to why women seem to have a harder time with this than men do. A large study looked at 5 years of data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, and for the first time analyzed the protein intake and the constipation risk by gender. Overall, when we think of constipation, it affects around 7.5% of adults, but when they broke it down, women actually had a higher rate of constipation of just over 10% compared to men that had under 5%. So nearly double for women. And here's the part that surprised researchers. In men, eating more protein actually lowered the risk of constipation up to a point. In women, though, once the protein intake was well above 40 grams a day, constipation risk started to climb steadily after accounting for things like age and BMI, physical activity, and other diet factors. Why the difference? Researchers think that it's a couple of things that are just working together. Men and women have different gut bacteria populations. Also, the byproducts of protein metabolism, like ammonia and those fatty acids, those might affect the gut environment a little different based on those populations. Hormonal fluctuations in women can slow intestinal motility, especially during certain changes in our menstrual cycle or if we're going through certain phases of life, like coming into perimenopause and menopause. Men also have more muscle mass on average. Since protein helps to maintain muscle, it indirectly supports those muscle contractions in the intestines that helps keep things moving. So between hormones, gut bacteria, and body composition, women just seem to experience this more. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, I don't really see it as protein causing the problems with constipation. It's more about that it's pushing out those fiber-rich foods, your water demand increases, and we're getting changes in our gut microbiome. And women just seem to be more sensitive to this. The good news is, though, is that it doesn't mean that you have to stop eating a high protein diet. It just means that you need to add some more fiber to the mix. You need to increase your water, stay properly hydrated, and just give yourself time because your body should adjust. And if you want some well-balanced meal ideas on what to eat that's high protein, low carb, but isn't going to give you constipation, click right here because I share some of my favorite recipes.